Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Ivan Jue. I teach international business at Cerritos College. Today, we will discuss one of the most important topics in international economics: exchange rates and why governments sometimes choose to weaken or strengthen their currencies. Many people assume that a stronger currency is always better, but in reality, both weak and strong currencies have advantages and disadvantages. So, by the end of today's lecture, you should understand why countries sometimes devalue their currencies, why countries sometimes encourage their currencies to appreciate. The economic trade offs involved in exchange rate policy can be sometimes confusing. So, let's begin with the basics. Our objectives today are to understand what currency devaluation and appreciation mean, why governments intentionally influence exchange rates, the economic consequences of weaker and stronger currencies, how exchange rate decisions affect businesses, consumers, and international trade. As we go through the presentation, think about how exchange rates affect your daily life, even if you've never exchanged foreign currency yourself. Currency devaluation occurs when a government or central bank intentionally reduces the value of its currency relative to other currencies. So let's look at this example. Suppose before devaluation, a dollar equals 100 units of a country's currency. After devaluation, $1 equals 120 units. The local currency has become weaker. What happens? Foreign buyers can now purchase goods from that country much cheaper. So, for example, if a product costs 12,000 units of local currency, in this case, before devaluation, $120, and then after devaluation, $100, the same product becomes cheaper to foreign customers. As a result, exports increase, imports become more expensive, domestic industries become more competitive. The primary reason governments devalue their currencies is to improve international competitiveness. So think about it from a business perspective. If products become cheaper for foreign buyers, export sales increase. Companies produce more goods. More workers are hired. Economic growth improves. This is important and especially attractive for export-oriented economies. In many cases, governments use devaluation as an economic stimulus tool when growth is slowing. A trade deficit occurs when a country imports more than it exports. So, for example, imagine Americans that buy 1 trillion of foreign goods, but foreigners only buy 800 billion of American goods. The country has a 200 billion trade deficit. Problems may include loss of domestic manufacturing jobs, dependence on foreign products, pressure on the balance of payments. So devaluation can help by making exports cheaper, making imports more expensive, and this would encourage consumers to buy domestic products. Many developing countries have used this strategy to improve their trade balance. During a recession, economic growth slows. Businesses reduce production. Unemployment rises. Governments seek ways to stimulate demand. A weaker currency helps because foreign consumers can buy more of the country's products. This increases factory production, employment, export revenues. For export-driven countries, devaluation can be a powerful recovery tool. Some countries accumulate large amounts of debt denominated in foreign currencies, such as US dollars or euros. Problems arise when foreign currency reserves become scarce. Debt payments become difficult. Governments may use devaluation to stimulate exports and generate additional foreign currency earnings. More exports would mean more dollars flowing into the country, greater ability to meet international obligations. This strategy has been used repeatedly by developing economies facing financial crises. Sometimes a country's currency becomes too strong. So at first glance, that sounds positive. However, an excessively strong currency can create problems. Exports become expensive. Imports become cheap. Domestic manufacturers struggle to compete. For example, a car made in one country may suddenly cost much more than a competitor's vehicle simply because of exchange rate changes. Governments may respond by weakening the currency to restore competitiveness. However, devaluation is not a free lunch. It creates benefits, but it also creates costs. One of the drawbacks is higher inflation. Imported products become more expensive. That includes oil, electronics, food, raw materials. It also leads to lower purchasing power, so consumers can afford fewer foreign goods. Investor concerns. Foreign investors may worry about losing money due to currency declines. Higher production costs. Businesses that depend on imported materials may face increased costs. This is why policymakers must carefully balance benefits and costs. Now let's look at the opposite situation. Why would a country want a stronger currency? Governments may encourage appreciation to control inflation, increase consumer purchasing power, attract foreign investment, demonstrate economic strength, reduce import costs. In some situations, a strong currency becomes more valuable than export competitiveness. Inflation is one of the most common reasons governments support a stronger currency. So, suppose oil prices rise. If the country's currency strengthens, imported oil becomes cheaper. Transportation costs fall. Production costs decline. The result is lower inflation. Countries often use exchange rate policy as one tool for stabilizing prices. Foreign investors prefer stable and strong currencies. Why? Because currency fluctuations affect investment returns. Imagine investing $1 million in another country. If the currency loses 20% of its value, part of your return disappears. Strong currencies reduce risk, increase confidence, encourage foreign investment. This can bring capital inflows, economic development, job creation. When an economy performs well, its currency often strengthens naturally. Strong growth attracts investors, businesses, international capital, and so the benefits include greater purchasing power, cheaper imports, more affordable foreign travel, lower costs for imported technology. This is one reason why developed economies often have relatively strong currencies. So let's compare both approaches. Weak currency. Benefits are boosting exports, supporting manufacturing, improving employment, help trade balance. The cost would be higher inflation, more expensive imports. The benefits are lower inflation, cheaper imports, greater purchasing power. However, the cost would be exports become more expensive, domestic firms may face tougher competition. There is no universally correct answer. The best policy depends on the country's economic circumstances. So let's examine several examples. Historically, countries such as China and Japan have often preferred relatively weaker currencies to support exports. On the other hand, Switzerland and Singapore often prioritize price stability and purchasing power, making stronger currencies more acceptable. These examples show that exchange rate policy depends on national priorities. So let's summarize this a bit. A country may devalue its currency when trade deficits are large, economic growth is weak, unemployment is high, the currency is overvalued, foreign reserves are under pressure. However, a country may encourage appreciation when inflation is rising, foreign investment is needed, economic fundamentals are strong, lower import prices are desired. The key takeaway is that exchange rate policy involves balancing competing objectives. Governments must carefully choose between growth and inflation, export competitiveness and purchasing power, employment and price stability. So let's end with a few questions. Question 1. Would you rather live in a country with a strong currency or a weak currency? Why? Question 2. Can currency devaluation create long-term economic growth, or is it only a short-term solution? And then question 3. Should governments actively manage exchange rates, or should markets determine currency values? Question 4. How do exchange rate changes affect multinational corporations such as Apple, Toyota, or Nike? These questions remain at the center of international economic policy debates today. So I want to thank all of you. I hope you all have found this useful. Please be sure to reach out to me if you have any questions. Take care, and I'll see you on the next video. Goodbye for now.